it. Make sure my audio is good for me, please. Testing, testing. Like it? Ah. Yes, looks good. Kind of crooked here, though. What's up? Now it's too low, huh? It's okay. It always takes a little bit of time for people to come in anyway, so just getting set up here, guys. Is that a bed bug? Yeah. Yeah, definitely could be. This isn't what we're tying up today. We're going to be tying up some articulated crayfish patterns. What's going on, guys? Thank you for joining in. Let's get started. So this is one of my favorite articulated crayfish patterns that I use a lot for smallmouth. It has also worked well for trout. It's small enough. Yeah, I'd say it's more of a medium-sized streamer. So not huge. But here are the couple of things I'm going to be using. I love these Waddington shanks. You guys see me use this a lot. That's how I'm going to add the articulation to it. And then we're going to be using a size 6 Firehole 860. I think that's what, yeah, Firehole 860 barbless hook. Let's get into it. What's up, Erica? How you doing? Anna, Jose, thank you guys for coming in. Appreciate you guys being here. And actually, yeah, I'm gonna try this out. We're gonna tie this one upside down. Normally, I like to tie in the vise the way I like to see my fly in the water, but for some reason that kind of freaks people out. So I'm gonna tie it normal. Okay, first things first, we've got to add some significant weight to this guy. So right now I'm using these lead eyes. Don't normally like to use these. My preference is going with tungsten, so I'll go with the tungsten dumbbell eyes. But this is just to add some weight onto the fly. And I like to tie it at the front of the articulation, and you will see why as I finish this fly. But there are a lot of crayfish patterns out there. A lot of really great patterns, I should say. And a lot of them have the weight tied at the back of the profile of the crayfish. So if this is going to be the articulation, this is going to be probably about a 3-inch fly here. And a lot of the crayfish patterns I see that they add the weight all the way at the back, which works really well if you want this crayfish to be up in a kind of like a defensive position. You want the claws to be up and out. But with this one, I don't want that. I want this crayfish to be more in a swimming position, not a defensive position. So this is how I do that. I like to add the weight all the way, basically right under, because this fly is going to ride just like this. And I want the weight right under the hook point. So I'm just laying a thread down for those dumbbell eyes. Digging yourself out of the snow, looking forward to the better weather and fishing season. Yeah, same here, Erica. I don't blame you there. Haven't even been getting much snow here in New Mexico, but we have been getting some colder weather. All right. Oop. Let me set that there. I'm just going to do my figure 8 wraps as you normally would for your dumbbell. But I also like to add these horizontal wraps where I stay underneath. And what that's going to do is it's going to squeeze those figure 8 wraps really tight and secure. And you can see there, I haven't even put much on it, but it's already pretty secure on the hook shank. That's not moving too much. So as long as you follow that, your dumbbell eyes shouldn't move around too much. What's up, low key Ewas? What's going on, sir? Good to see you, man. So I just do my figure 8s, do a couple, and then do my little horizontal wrap, basically just wrapping right in between where the hook shank and the dumbbell eye are connecting, and then I'll just pull that straight forward. So you kind of squeeze those figure 8 wraps around the dumbbell eye. That makes it super tight and secure. Perfect. What's up, Ronnie? Hey, Ewa, sounds good, man. Appreciate it. Why call it a figure 8? Because if you look at it from this direction, from the top right here, I'm going to wrap over like this, one direction, and then to the other side of the dumbbell, and then back over again. So I'm just going to repeat that figure 8 process over and over so that it wraps efficiently all the way around the dumbbell and the hook shank. And then you're going to just come over around those figure 8 wraps just like this horizontally and squeeze them together. Just like that. And that's, I mean, that thing is solid. It's not moving very much. Yeah, no problem, ET. If you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to answer. I will definitely stop tying, help answer questions. Not afraid to do that. So don't be afraid to ask. Now to make this guy even more durable, just for fun, just add a dab of super glue underneath here. Or your choice of glue. You can use UV, whatever you want to use. I like to use super glue if I have some. I've been running low here for a while. Might just be clogged. Yep. Hope everyone's having a wonderful week. It's almost the weekend, right? We're getting there. Hey, Mr. Stardusted. Thank you for joining, sir. Always appreciate the legendary Stardusted joining my live streams. I'm just going to spread this super glue around, getting it on the thread wraps as well as the dumbbell eyes a little bit. These are going to get covered up pretty heavily. You're pretty much not even going to see them in the profile of this fly. But there's a couple of different functions to the dumbbell eyes in this specific pattern. One is weight, and 2 is the next step that we're getting to here. In my opinion, you can't beat rabbit strips for claws on crayfish patterns. You just can't. It just looks exactly like their claws. I mean, I've seen other materials for claws, but I just think that using rabbit strips are absolutely the best. Sorry, guys, give me one second. Let me lower the music down real quick. What's up, one fly? Yes, this is going to be somewhat of a heavy fly. It's not going to be heavy to cast. This fly will still be easy to cast, but it's going to have just enough weight to really get this thing down on the bottom where we want it, just like we want our crayfish patterns. So right now all I'm doing is just lining up some rabbit strips. I like this one. This one's a little fluffier. Like a nice wide. Yeah, we'll go with that. So I'll cut a couple of these off, maybe about 1.5 inches each. Make sure and get that hair in there. Okay. So the second function to this dumbbell eye, aside from just adding weight to this fly, is it's going to add separation for my rabbit strips. I'm going to tie them very tight against each eye, like this right here, tied up against, and what that's going to do is create this kind of flared out look. If I turn it to the side like this, it's going to create this flared out, separation between the rabbit strips. To me, that's really important because what's going to happen, and when you strip this, all your material is going to become real slim. But then when you pause it, it's going to bounce right back out and maintain that crayfish shape that we all really like from these rabbit strips. But I'm also skipping ahead here. I need to add some rubber legs before I move on to the claws. What's the main reason for making the fly? Well, there's a lot of reasons that people get into fly tying, ET. I do it to do what's called, and some fly fishers or fly tiers may call this cheesy, but to match the hatch. So when you hear a fly fisherman say they're trying to match the hatch, they're basically trying to imitate bugs or fish as closely as possible, as best as they can, and that's what a fly does. When you're on the bench, you're trying to mimic bugs. In this situation, I'm trying to mimic crayfish, so you're just trying to match the colors, match the profile, and that's kind of the whole draw of fly tying, is that you get really creative with what you can do on the vise, trying to make things look realistic, using different materials to cause different reactions out of the fish. So it's an art to get on the vise. It's just a relaxing thing to do. Uh, for me, it's also, just a lot of fun to be able to create things that closely imitate the bugs and things that the fish that I'm going after are eating. Why not use a plastic crayfish? Well, depending on state regulations, like a couple of the rivers that I fish for trout, you are not allowed to use plastic materials, such as like the Z-Man plastics or any of the soft plastics that you can use in conventional tackle. A lot of the regulations don't allow for that, for basically for conservation purposes. And then it's not really, if you're just going to use a plastic, then it's no longer a fly. A fly is basically focused on using feathers and hair, different kinds of materials like that. Some plastics, like obviously these rubber legs are a type of plastic, but hey, what's up, K-Fish? Good to see you, man. That should be enough for the start on these legs. And then I need some antennas, which I forgot my antennas here. Yep, there you go. Stardusted said it simply. A lot more fun to make a fly. Just gonna get a couple of these black rubber legs to create the antennas on this guy. K-Fish is back from Thailand, huh? Shoot, that's cool, dude. Hope you had a good time out there, man. So these antenna, I mean, they could be antenna, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. I like them to be pretty long, quite a bit longer than my first stack of rubber legs. And the trick with tying in rubber legs is you just want to do light wraps. If you pinch it too hard, you're going to cut it. You don't want to put the pressure until you're past your rubber legs here. And then I can start putting some pressure on that. Just like so. Hey, what's up, Trip Ties? Thanks for stopping by, man. I can come back up, get a little bit closer to those dumbbell eyes, because now I can tie in my claws. And I'm using dark olive magnum rabbit strips for these guys. So as I was saying earlier, I'm just gonna pinch it really tight to that eye. This is pretty much gonna hide the dumbbells, or the dumbbell eyes there. But this is important because I want to keep it pinned on the side of the fly. So I'm just gonna do light wraps, make sure it's in place right there. And then I can cinch that down. Boom. Perfect. Same thing on this side. And I like to, so when I measure these out, I like to leave myself a little tie-in tag here. Just makes it a lot easier if you know the length you're trying to tie in. Making sure those are about the same length. Looks good. Pinch it against the dumbbell eye, couple of light wraps. There we go. It'll stay right where I want it. Oh. Yeah, I appreciate that, ET. I've always thought of myself as kind of a slow tire. I don't rush. I don't like to rush my work. You know, I really take my time, pay attention to the detail, making sure all my materials are in the right place that I want them to be. That's it. There we go. That's the claws. So again, two functions to the dumbbell eyes here. Adds weight at the front under the hook point, which we're going to get into later. Why I like my weight at the front of a crayfish. And then it creates separation here, a solid separation between your claws. So they're not just going to get clumped together once they get wet. Like they're going to actually stay apart, you know, to keep and maintain that crayfish shape and profile. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a little bit of red into this. So the crayfish in the river that I fish for smallmouth have a very interesting color, especially in the springtime. They are very dark olive, just like this, mixed with a little bit of brown. But as the temperatures start to warm up, you start seeing a little more orange type red, like this guy right here. So whenever I make a dark olive, dark brown kind of crayfish blend color like this, I like to add a little bit of this little hot spot, I guess you could say, in this guy. Hey, thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate that. Yeah, Kfish. Actually, I do have a video on this guy, but I will make a better quality. When I recorded the video, the tutorial for this fly, it wasn't the best quality. So, yeah, actually, that's a good idea. I think I should repost this fly. So just keep an eye out, man. Let's see. So I just want to spread this guy around. Kind of the same thing I do with bucktail. You know, just come from the front of the hook shank there, so that hair is already spread. I don't want it too long, so I'm going to hold it there. A couple of light wraps around. This way I can spread that a little bit more where I need it. Yeah, not the trim. That's a long piece there. It's not quite enough, so I think I'm actually going to fold these short ends back and wrap forward. Let's see what this does. Yeah, that should create a nice taper. Keeping the pressure just like bucktail. Same thing. Keep that pressure as you switch over those short fibers. Now I can wrap over the base of those so that they slick forward. Just like that. Looks great. By the way, that was a bit of EP brush. I just kind of cut off the wire there. It's meant to just wrap the wire around, but for this fly, it would be a little bit too long. The fibers would be too long over this. So I just wanted some shorter fibers, so I just cut it off of the wire there to utilize the color blend of that EP. Hey, thanks, ET. You take it easy, man. Appreciate the sub, dude. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm keeping in mind with my thread the profile of this crayfish. So I want it to come to that taper, right? You could fish this as a single crayfish just like that. No articulation. Once you get to the end of this hook eye, you could definitely fish it like that. But if you want the extra action and the extra length on the profile, I highly recommend adding a single articulation to this guy. Here's what I'm going to do. That looks good there. Now, we need to finish this section off with I need a schloppen feather here. Let's see, where is that? Oh, I got some right here, within reach. Hey, what's up, Nimby? Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by. So basically, I'm just going to finish off the rest of this with the schloppen, but I don't want it to be too wide to where it just overpowers that red there. I want that nice red and black color to stand out. So I'm going to find a thinner schloppen feather. Maybe that guy right there. Okay, so yeah, that should be good there. Get some of this fluff. Make sure I have a long enough feather. This is what I'm going to finish this section off with. Don't need too many materials. Yeah, that should work perfectly. That red will just stand out just enough. Poke through that schloppen a little bit. Might actually need one more feather, which is all right. I think I'm going to add a A little bit more texture to this guy to finish it off here at the end. Oh, okay. I'll take that as a yes. Let me get back to it. No. Has a little bit of a knuckle right there. I guess it's not going to come over that. That's fine. Just stack it up heavy enough that these fibers will cover up the thread wraps nicely. Yeah, let's leave it right there. Cut off the excess. Okay, now to add a little bit of texture to this guy, I think I'm gonna add some this dark olive. Yeah, let's try one of these feathers here. This will make it a little bit leggier. Add some extra pop in there. One of those things that's like, do the fish really care? Who knows? But I like it. Some flies are meant to catch fishermen more than they are to catch fish. And this one definitely catches me. Get all that junk out there. Okay, now we can finish this section off. Let's just see, and I always do this. I always make the mistake of wrapping my material the opposite direction of my thread, so then I kind of have to do a funky finish there, but it's possible. You can do it. It's not a big deal if you do, but there is a concern of durability if you don't wrap your materials the same direction as your thread wraps. Yeah, I like this. This adds a little bit of color contrast, which I feel is extremely important for any streamer fly. It's a bit of contrast in your color design. I've never really liked to do one solid color no matter what I'm tying. So even just adding a little bit of barring, even a slightly different color contrast or color variant can do a lot for your streamers. There we go. So if you wanted that to be your crayfish, you could definitely fish that. That will definitely catch some bass, probably some trout too. Now we're going to add this second section, which is really the magic of this fly. This is where this fly really stands out. Let's see. Let's hand whip finish today. Oh, never mind. I'm going the wrong direction for it. We'll do the spider weave. Appreciate you guys joining me today. I am tying up an articulated crayfish pattern. This is an extremely effective pattern for smallmouth, largemouth, and even trout during late spring and early summer conditions. What's up, Carlos? Thanks for coming in today. Vasquez, how's it going, sir? Thank you guys for being here today. definitely need to tie a bunch of these guys up because I need to get ready for the bass season already. We're going to start fishing from probably late March, early April. Definitely by April. So I need to get my bass fly collection stocked up. All right, there we go. There's the articulation. So let me show you real quick why I like to tie my weight at the front of this fly. When this fly is swimming through the water, that extra weight, you can already see what's going to happen is it's going to create that flipping action. If you've ever seen a crayfish swimming through the water column, if you've ever actually seen them flee, if you scare them out from under a rock or something, they do like a flipping action with their claws, right? So this imitates that perfectly. When you put your weight right at the front as opposed to at the back, this is the kind of action you're going to create. That swimming, flipping crayfish action. That's why I tie that weight at the front. If you tie the weight at the back, it works really well too. Different presentation. This is where I say, you know, matching the hatch with flies for bass is different than it is for trout. You're not trying to match a perfect fly or imitation like a larva or a pupa. With this guy, when you're going bass fishing, you're trying to match an action. So let's say with this crayfish, you might need a more fleeing type action, which is where this guy's going to come from. If you do the weight in the back, it's going to have a defensive action when the claws kind of float up and the front of the fly floats down to the bottom and the rest of your fly kind of goes up in a defensive crayfish position. That can work in certain situations, but this is where I say, you know, it's matching the hatch. You're doing different things. So that's why I tied this guy up like that. Now let's see. Actually, let me flip this guy back over so I can hold in the vise like so. That looks great. That color blend, I'll show you guys from the front. That orange really pops out from the front of the fly where the fish will be looking at it. Looks awesome. Never used that craft for blend in with this pattern, so I was interested to try that out today. Now we're going to create the second half, basically the tail section of the crayfish. So I'm going to lay a nice thread down. All the way through. I like to get pretty close to that connection because I don't want to see the articulation in the profile. It's okay if you do, but just my own preference. I like it to be pretty covered up and heavy on there. So what I'm going to do is I will probably add let me add another schlappen feather here. This one can be decently wide. Doesn't have to be the widest feather you can find, but that one should probably do well. Yeah. This one will look good, and then I'm going to add the kind of top layer to create a shell effect with these Indian henbacks. See if I can find a thick enough feather. I think this color blend will look good if I laid that right over the top. Yeah, I like that. That looks awesome. Perfect. I probably could have even tied that in at the end there, but I think it'll work in this second section here. You want to be careful not to use too many materials when you're stacking up the profile of this fly. That's why I like to use things like schlappen to create volume, because there's not much water absorption in a schlappen feather. So it's not going to hold a ton of water, which would make this fly hard to cast. I like to throw this guy on a 4 or 5 weight rod when I'm fishing for smallmouth. So as long as I can comfortably throw it on that, it feels pretty good. Oh, come on. Having to wrestle this feather a little bit. It's not staying where I want it. There we go. There we go. Now we're getting to it. Now I'm just gonna go kind of play it by ear, eyeball it as I wrap this to see exactly where I want to tie in that Indian feather for the back here. So you can already see with as much fiber was in the bottom of this feather, I don't think I'm going to need much. About right there, looks pretty good. So I can create that back shell. I don't want it to interrupt too much with the connection, with the articulation there. I want to allow some free movement. Don't want to stack up too many materials right there. Too many thread or too many feather wraps. I think that'll do it perfectly. There we go. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Tying up some bass and trout flies, more specifically articulated crayfish patterns. This is one of my favorite smallmouth flies. Very effective. And really cool action in the water. So I think I'm going to double up these Indian henbacks to give it a really distinctive top layer. Like, you know, if you've seen a crayfish, you know, they have that top shell, you know, the outer, I don't know the scientific name for it, but you know what I'm talking about. I'll line this up right. I've never actually added the feathers like this, so when I saw these, I thought they definitely looked very crayfishy. So, just trying to line it up right. I think right before it gets to the hook point will probably be a good area to lay that in. Do some light wraps so it stays up. There we go. Light wraps again, not putting any pressure. Just making sure that that stays right there. Now, once I get further away from where the feathers are, I can do some securing wraps. Really cinch down on it. That really pulls the profile together. That's, I don't know why I didn't think of that before, but those feathers really pull the front profile together nicely. Just evening out my thread wraps, because now I'm going to throw on, basically now I'm going to just tie a woolly bugger to finish it out, to create that back tail section. So I like to tie in a couple of materials. I'll do my flashy olive chenille. This stuff just always looks extra buggy to me. Tie that in there. And then we need the Ewing feather. Make sure it's nice and long. Preferably, I would like to use a nice wide feather here. Like this guy might work actually. So I want the underside of this fly to look very leggy. These feather wraps will definitely do a good job of that. Okay. Yeah, let's just try it. We'll see what happens. Not sure about it, but we'll see what happens. Oh, you know what though? I forgot another detail. What's up, one fly? I promise you, man. You know, it's all about the fly line that you choose. I would, how confident I am in casting even a bigger fly than this one. I would be even willing to show you on a 3 or 4 weight that you can chuck a fly this size. Is it pretty and easy? Maybe not, but it's definitely possible on a 5 weight. I used to think when I first started bass fishing that I needed at least a 6 weight or a 7 weight, but I found a lot more enjoyment out of using downsizing to a 5 weight and upsizing my fly line. So my favorite streamer or bass fly line right now is Scientific Angler's Bass Mastery. I put the 6 weight line on my 5 weight setup. Actually, on my 4 and 5 weight setups. So, um, what it does is it makes it so much easier to cast these big flies, and it doesn't feel so clunky. You know, it doesn't feel like it's yanking your rod out of your hand while you're casting a big fly like this. So I always tell people, if you're getting into streamer fishing, find yourself a really good line and upsize it a little bit. But some of these lines, like Scientific Anglers, they already do that for you. So if you get a 6 weight line, it's actually 2 sizes up. It's actually technically a 7 or an 8 weight line. So keep that in mind. I promise you, it works really well, and it will make, especially if you are bass fishing, it will make it so much more enjoyable. Because sometimes, we're not always catching 4 or 5 pound smallies out there, so when you hook into those smaller bass that maybe are only 1 or 2 pounders on a 4 or 5 weight rod, it makes it so much more enjoyable. You can really feel what's going on. You can do some sensitive presentations, so try it out. What's up, no frills? Thanks for joining in today, man. So I forgot about my material stack here. The way when I'm wrapping multiple materials in for a section to complete the fly, I forget I got to stack up the materials first in the opposite direction I'm going to start with. So I'm starting with the chenille's, the first one, so it's going to be the last material I tie on. And then I'm going to fold over that peacock curl to create kind of what I did with the Indian hackle, how it's kind of an outer shell on the top of the fly. The way I tie up my bass burger is basically what I'm tying up right here, just not as complex or complicated. Yeah, definitely. One check out if you're not subscribed to the channel, I have a video talking about fly lines for streamer fishing posted on my channel right now. I think I have it titled, "Is Your Fly Line Holding You Back?" Check out that video and it will explain a little more in depth what I was just saying right now about different size fly lines for streamers. I was going to use my rotary function, but I guess it's not pinched on there hard enough. That's right. So I really like adding this second section, obviously for the action, the articulated action, but to me, it looks like a more accurate profile, if that makes sense. Like if you look at a crayfish at about this size, they're actually kind of long. So just a hook shank, if you just tie it on a single hook shank, to me it looks kind of funny. It just looks too short. Like it doesn't accurately represent a full-sized crayfish. So when you add this shank on there, it kind of creates that profile naturally. And I'm just going to wrap this feather through. Give it the legs. And you can space these out as much as you want, depending on how leggy you want your crayfish. I don't like to stack them too tight because then it's almost like you can't see the separation. And it looks like there's just too much going on under there. So I like to space them out just a little bit so that you can see that shiny olive chenille pop out and you can see the separation of the thread wraps. Stack it up a little bit right there. Lock that baby in. Okay. Now I can fold. Actually, I like to create a path. So I'll pull all these hackle wraps underneath the fly. Just create a path for that peacock curl to lay. Now I can grab this and fold it over. Keep all those wraps down underneath. Just kind of pull in a little bit, not too tight. Pulling this peacock curl forward. Let me push it with one finger. Flatten it out a little bit so that you create more width with these feathers. It'll really push down those hackle wraps. Light wraps, don't cinch it down yet. Light wraps, bring it in front, and then you can put some pressure on it. Oh, that looks great, guys. Love that little added detail in there with the Indian hen backs. It's great. Hadn't done that before, but I'm glad I did. Love the look of it. See, now when you have that peacock curl folded over, you can see underneath. If you do too much, it just looks like a big mess under there. But I like to do a little extra to give it some extra legs in the back, but just enough separation so that it looks kind of distinctive from the rest of the body. That looks great. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. Optional here. I messed up. I wasn't supposed to chop those peacock curls off so close, because what I like to do is actually leave a bit of a tag with them so that it's that creates the little back fin. That's all right. I'm going to, let's see, improvise here. Make sure that guy's tied in right. Not that it really matters, but just an added detail. Maybe one of these guys, a couple of these guys stacked up. Let's see. Probably going to get ripped off anyway, but just so we see a completed fly in the back there. Yeah, why not? Let's add it in. Let's add it in here. Just going to make sure to line these up, and I'm just going to let them splay out as wild as they want to splay out back here, because this doesn't really, it's not going to do anything. It's just for the look. It's for us fishermen more than anything else. Just going to spread those around a little bit. You got to stay up there now. There we go. Okay. That'll work. Not my usual preference for this to finish this fly off. It would have been much easier if I left the peacock curl longer, but I forgot about that step there. I'm just going to wrap over that to make sure it's secure. Now I can cut these guys off. And there you have a realistic articulated crayfish. I'm going to color in these thread wraps first before I finish it off. I should say to finish it off. So stop moving on me. Well, thank you, Stardusted. Appreciate that, sir. Appreciate you too, one. Let's see. Could you rig this up on a Texas rig? I think it's very possible because a Texas rig you have to use pretty heavy weight, right? I think what I've seen is most people use like a soft plastic with a heavy weight. And if that's the case, yeah, I think you could totally set this up on that. Absolutely. Color it up, blend it in. There you go. Got yourself a nice little articulated crayfish. Let's see. I'll definitely finish off the top of those peacock curl, the peacock curl with UV, just to make it more durable. But just so you have, see if you can see it there. I could have probably made those claws a little bit longer. Now looking at the completed profile here, I think you can see it there. Look. There you go. Not too bad for not having tied one of these guys, and it's been almost a whole season, I guess. You were thinking of running a bead, then a 1/4 ounce bullet weight. Yeah, there you go, man. I think that would work beautifully with this. This fly doesn't have a ton of weight. I don't know how well it would work on that rig because it's tied up to work on a fly rod. Usually I'm fishing this guy on floating line in the shallow water. But I don't know. You'd have to give it a shot and try it out. See if that works for you. Hey, what's up, Ahmed? What's going on? That's the fly there, guys. I like that. Pretty sweet, if I do say so myself. Can't wait to fish that guy this spring. Let's see. Let's do. I'm not done yet. Should we tie up here? Let's have a different color. Yeah, you know what? I'll tie up another one here. Let me see if I can change up the color a little bit more. I want to try to make it a little more tan. We can add some tan feathers rather than so much olive. I've only got one more dumbbell eye in here. I don't use them very often, so I might as well tie it up. Set there. I'm just going to lay another thread down. Thread base. I think I'm going to try to push these eyes up a little bit further than I did the last one. Try to get it almost up onto the bend of the hook. Pretty close. I think right there. Yeah, right where my thread's at. It's a little bit trickier to get those dumbbell eyes to stick and stay right there, but you should be able to work it. Now you stay up there. There we go. Cinch that down a little bit, do my horizontal wraps. There we go. Once you do those, pretty much stays solid right there for the most part. I'm tying up some articulated crayfish right now. Really great pattern for smallmouth. One of my favorite. Actually, I think this was one of the flies. So before I landed my last personal best last year in the lakes, this was the fly that caught my previous personal best smallmouth. Too well? How's it working too well? Really? Oh, well, that's all right. Okay. Okay. You guys, give me 1 second. Let me just adjust my mic here. There we go. Okay, that's pretty solid. Now I'm just going to add a little super glue. Just a little bit. Or a lot, whatever you prefer. Oh, come on now. Oh, there we go. There we go. Just like to focus getting it on the thread wraps and then spread it around to the dumbbell eyes just a little bit. You don't need too much. If you do your figure 8 wraps right, you almost don't even need the glue. The glue is just for extra durability, but not necessary. Okay, now let's add some rubber legs. Let's see, I think I'm gonna add extra here. Yeah, I feel like I didn't get enough rubber legs on this guy, so let's add a little bit more. These guys aren't stuck together. hope everyone's having a wonderful Thursday afternoon. Always appreciate you guys coming in and joining me. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Always like a good discussion in the chat. I think what I'm going to do here actually is fold these over, double them up. So I'm going to grab a good stack, tie them in, and then fold them over. You can't have a good crayfish pattern without a decent amount of rubber legs on it. Don't want too many wraps because I'm going to fold this guy over, get it in place. Let's see, cut the ends off of that guy real quick. Yeah, there we go. I like that better. I like a ton of rubber legs on the front. That's what the fish are going to grab onto first. So don't be light with it. It's going to bulk up this front end a little bit more, but that's all right. You're going to create a big triangle-like profile in this section, so not a big deal. Some light wraps as I wrap forward. And that should be plenty of room to lock those in. Same thing I do with a lot of my feathers, bring it up forward, and then this is where I can put a lot of tension on the thread. Actually not too bad. Even though I doubled up the legs, it's still pretty thin. It looks good to me. Add some antennas. Make it a little extra long there. Definitely want them longer than this first stack of rubber legs. A lot of these are going to get nipped off by the panfish and the smaller fish that can't entirely inhale this fly. They tend to nip the legs off, which is why it's better to put extra, so that even if they do that, it's not a big deal. It's not going to take away from the action. But these rubber legs definitely add an extra feel and action in the water that you want to add these on to your streamers, especially your crayfish patterns. Some light wraps, not cinching it down. Now I can do my rabbit strip claws. So looking at the other profile, I think I went a little bit short. So let's go a little longer on this one. Maybe about, not quite that long. Maybe about right there. Once I line one up, I'll just kind of press it to the other side to get the same length. Roughly, doesn't have to be exact, but just to get in the ballpark. There we go. Keep those. Basically, I'm just trying to cover up the eye on the side here. Make sure that my hide lines up perfectly with that. That's what's going to keep these claws separated. I'm just lining it up perfectly parallel to the dumbbell eyes. A few light wraps just to make sure it's going to stay in place. That looks pretty good. Come to the other side. Same thing, just line it up. Somehow that claw ended up a little longer. That's all right. I'll just pull it back a little bit. Make sure it's lined up. Light wraps and pull it in place. And you got your claws. Most important part of this fly. Without them, it doesn't really look like a crayfish anymore. That's why I like to really lock these guys in. If you leave yourself long enough tag end at the back here, that'll make sure that those claws aren't gonna slip out on you or be torn. Get those, cut off the excess. Okay, now I'm going to try something, switch up the material a little bit. I had tied in the orange first, but I want it to stand out a little bit more with this next pattern. So let's tie the schloppen in first. Keep that color going through it and then mix it up. Yeah, you're probably right there, Stardusted. You're probably spot on with that. The fish don't care how perfectly laid out your claws are. And you're probably right, they might even prefer them to be a little bit more wounded looking. Yeah, let's throw some of this lighter olive in there. Keep that feather on top. Guess I don't need too many wraps with this because I still have to put the hot spot on it. I'm just gonna get just enough, cover up those dumbbell eyes. That's my main thing, just want those covered up. And that's a little bit lighter, so it gives a nice color contrast between the dark olive claws and this light olive schloppen. But I'll leave it there, I like that. Tie that in, and then I can add my bit of red craft fur there. There we go. Now that feather will survive for another fly. Okay, that leaves me plenty of room. I'm just grabbing some of these EP fibers. I'm going to double up what I added from the last one. That should add some nice red and orange into this guy. Just pull out some of those extra long fibers. Don't need those guys in there. I'll leave the tag ends a little bit longer. So I'm going to fold these guys in like I did last time. I think that worked out really well. There we go. Just make sure that's secure. Some nice tight wraps. And then I'll fold these short ends back into it. Just like handling bucktail. Let's go ahead and wrap over these short fibers because that's really going to force them back to fold into the profile. Stack up in there. Perfect. Yeah, those are lined up right. Looks good. Now we'll finish this off with a grizzly Ewing feather. Thought I had a nice long one set there. Maybe not. That's all right. This guy should work here. National Corn Chip Day. Who comes up with all these national days? Who's responsible? Okay, so which way am I wrapping here? I'm wrapping under. I always have to check myself and see which direction my thread wraps are going. Sometimes I change it up without even knowing. All right, let's finish this section off and we'll add the articulation. Stack up these hackle wraps here. See, this one worked out better. That red really pops out even more, which I really like. On the first pattern, it was the first thing I put on, and the schlop pen, I think, covered it up a little too much. You can see it from the front, but not as much as you can see it on this guy, so I like this better. Sometimes it just takes figuring out your recipe. seeing exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to lay it out. That works perfectly. What's going on, Mr. David? Thanks for dropping by, sir. Hope you're having a good Thursday. We got to go live together soon, too. Color this guy up. I just like to use these Artist Loft alcohol markers because all I have is white thread. Just easy enough to match your thread wraps there when you're ready to finish the fly. All right. Looking good, looking good. Now let me get my shank here. Straighten this guy out a little bit. Yeah, those claws look a little bit better, more in line with the size of this profile once I add on this articulation. I think the claws were a little bit short on the last guy, so I think these are going to line up a little better. Yeah, that red and orange popping out nicely on that guy. I like it. See if I can put this one in a little tighter this time. Okay. I'm going to lay a nice thread dam, thread base, whatever you want to call it. You just reminded me, David. I have to go. I'm going to go check it right after I get off the stream. It's been a really busy week for me this week, so haven't had a chance to do much of anything else other than work, but I will definitely check it today. Get my thread nice and close there, and now we're going to add another slop and wrap before I add those beautiful Indian henback feathers. That's a nice fluffy feather there, so I'm going to add that guy in. Starduster with the jokes always. You know, I am terrible at tying balloon animals, though. I tried it one time and I just didn't understand it, so it didn't work. So Stardust, it is right. I am terrible at balloon animals. Now that got me pretty good there. Hold on. There we go. A little tricky to push these fibers back without poking yourself. Mr. Traveler's Flies is a pro at balloon animals. right, that should be good there. Tie that guy off. Really appreciate you guys joining me today. Would not be coming on here to stream if I did not have an audience, so it means a lot. Even if you're not in the chat, you're just here to hang out and watch, or maybe tie along with me. All of it is much appreciated. That works. Let's get this back shell going. I think I'm going to do a couple extra feathers on this one, just to make sure. Just to make sure that it's going to stay on there. I'm not going to lose, if I do lose a feather or two, that it won't be a big deal. These to stay pretty much lined up so they keep that nice profile going. Let's check that out. There we go. That works for me. Do some light wraps forward. I like to pull on the tail end, and as long as the feather end where I have the tie-in with the rest of my material, as long as that doesn't move, then that's how you know you have a secure attachment there. I can wiggle these around and those feathers don't move at all. Make them extra secure, wrap up, wrap back. Now I'm ready for the finishing touch. So first thing first, my peacock curl. Now I'll show you how I normally do my tails on this guy. So I'm going to remember not to chop it off. Since this is the last material folding over, this is going to be the first one I tie in. So I'll lock all that down. I've got the hook shank pretty thin right now, so even if I add the extra material, it's just for some more volume back here on the tail section. All right, brother, you get back to work, man. Talk to you later. Let's see. Yeah, let's just stick with the olive, I guess. Yeah, let's stick with the olive. I was going to do tan for the legs here, but I think that'll be too much variation in the color. So let's tie, I could do brown. Brown might work. Nah, let's go with this guy. We'll continue. Let's see, we'll start it from right there. Should be pretty good. Give myself a nice stem. Tie that in, and the final. This olive chenille is probably one of my favorites for woolly buggers and crayfish. Just, I don't know, when I saw it in the shop, it looks super buggy to me. Okay, wrap up. Get pretty close there, right to there. I should be able to do my rotary wrap here. It's not often I get to use it, but it works really well for this style of fly. Just wrap back over. Lock that in. This guy I don't usually like to run the rotary because I like to lay it in a specific path. Although I suppose it could work still. That's all right. Spread these guys out a little bit more. All right, Mr. Stardusted. Appreciate you coming in. Thanks for all your support and everything you do, man. Can't wait to meet you in person. Let's go fishing. The season is coming up. The season is coming up. Let's see, I wrap my hackle wraps the opposite direction of my thread again. That's all right, not a big deal. Just got to do a little funky little X wrap there to get it to lock in place. Make sure it doesn't slip on you. Glad to hear it, man. You take it easy. All right, that's looking nice. Just gonna brush these fibers down. Want all that underneath. Now it's time for the fold over. Guess I didn't have as many peacock fibers in this bunch, but that's all right. I'm just gonna spread them out a little bit more. Make sure it goes flat. Hey, what's up, Ever Lovin'? Thanks for stopping by, man. Hey, well, thanks for joining in, Angelica. I appreciate that. It's definitely very calming. You're able to kind of just focus in and forget about all your troubles and just get a little creative. See, here's where I messed up last time. I cut all this off right away, which made me have to work a little harder to get that fly tied on, or the profile I wanted. But what I normally do is I'll just, actually let me wrap back over. There we go. Is just leave these a little bit long. I'll cut them in that same kind of like crayfish fin, that little back fin flipper, whatever you want to call it. Right back there, just like that. You don't have to worry about it. another thing you can do with this, which I have done before to give this some really crazy, wacky crayfish action, is you can put a little bit of UV resin on these back tail fibers, and that'll stiffen them up, and it basically creates like a little crankbait lip. And what that does is just give it so much more extra wiggle action. Like this thing it looks pretty crazy. Doesn't always work. I don't do it often, but if I like to have one of those patterns in my box where it's just the crazy cray, thing looks pretty wild in the water. But for the most part, this is the finished fly. I just like to add that profile of the tail in the back there, just to finish that off. Those are pretty stiff as it is, so it probably does help add some wacky action to this guy anyway. There you go. Another articulated crayfish for you. The mud bug, yep. The mud bug, that's exactly what it is. The bass like them, so I like to fish them. Hey, Gills and Thrills, what's up, man? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Just darken up those thread wraps so it matches. And where did my lid go? I'm sure I'm not the only one who does this, where you literally just had something and you misplace it almost instantly. Easy to do on your fly tying desk. When you start getting creative and there's just feathers and material all over the place, all over your desk, it's easy to lose things. That's it, guys. Started buying stuff to make wood cranks. Nice, man. Sweet. That's it, guys. Just holding this thing, what I was talking about earlier, is the different action on this guy. It has more of a fleeing crayfish action. So if you've ever seen him, you know, their front claws, their front body kind of flips and articulates like that. So that's the reason for tying that weight all the way at the head of the fly. You can see how wiggly it already is. But when it gets in the water, it really comes to life. You know, you get a lot of action out of that. You can drag this thing on the bottom since it's gonna ride hook point up, you know. That's really it. It's a little tedious, just like all my flies, you know, they're a little tedious, but they're not complicated. Yeah, it's actually that top feather right there, Everlovin, that's the Indian henback. It's those guys right there. Yep. Looks sweet. Can't wait to fish that. So there's a different, watch, I'll show you the difference between the first one I tied. You can see how much more of this orange stands out when I tied it in a little bit later in the profile. A little more orange strand standing out. And then we got this one here. Claws are a little bit smaller on this guy, but it works. It's definitely still fishable. But I just like how on this guy, the orange just stands out a little bit more, because that's almost an exact representation of the crayfish in the river that I fish for smallmouth. So a little bit more orange popping out in there. The only flash that's in this fly, there's a little bit on those rubber legs, if you can see that. That's really the only flash I like to have, because to me, crayfish aren't flashy. They don't shine in the water, so I don't like to add too much flash on there other than what's naturally present in some of these feathers, like the peacock curl, you know, just the shine that it has. But That's really what I go for with that. Hey, but I appreciate you guys joining me today. Thank you if you've been here the entire time. If you're just jumping in, come check out the channel. I've got lots of fly tying tutorials, on the water footage, a lot of good stuff for you guys to check out. So come check it out and let me know what you think. Hit that like button so I know what content you're enjoying. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.